The LA Gladiators have come out and have broken the offseason drought by announcing their newest acquisition at the flex DPS position, Yaki. The rumors about Yaki going to the Glads have been hot for a while now, but nonetheless, this is a very interesting pickup out of LA for the simple fact that they already had an S-tier flex player in Kevster amongst their ranks. It's a very curious choice, as Kevster has been a flex god in this league the last couple of years. That's what he's been known to do for the LA Gladiators. He's been their everything, their rock, the guy that they build around and have flex no matter what the meta is. He's the one they're always trying to make space for and all that good stuff in pocket. That aspect won't change. It just seems like his dynamic and his role will be slightly different. We can talk about that more in a sec, but let's focus on the guy that actually got picked up first. So Yaki, on the LA Gladiators, and the best team he's been on paper since 2020. Regardless of how strange this fit might feel on paper, you gotta feel pretty happy for the guy. Going from that Florida mess and, of course, alexyOWL last year to this on the LA Gladiators, alongside Kevster and having Lastro and Funny Astro and Dante to support him, that's a nice little upgrade you got going for yourself. Nah, scratch that. This is a huge upgrade compared to what he's dealt with the last 2 years. He's finally gonna have real opportunities to pop off in meaningful situations. It won't be like on New York last year where it never felt like it ever mattered. Now this guy is going to carry and have a chance to do some serious damage with title implications on the line, or at least being a lot more competitive. This really could be a W for all parties involved. The Gladiators, because regardless of the fit, Yaki is still a very talented player with extremely high potential, and a W for Yaki because, again, he has a better supporting cast around him than he's had the last couple of years, and maybe arguably ever, depending on how the Gladiators round out this roster. In terms of what Yaki brings to the table, well, he can fill out all of your projectile needs. He can also play Tracer just like Kevster does, which is great. And I think in general, it just gives a lot less pressure to Kevster to flex onto everything under the sun. Yaki can do much of the same, so Kevster's gonna have more room to play some of his comfort picks per se. Obviously, you want Kevster on the Tracer as much as humanly possible. He's a monster on her, but at the same time, in those instances where you maybe want to play like a Tracer Genji or a Tracer and a hit scan, Yaki can come in pretty clutch. In all the time that Kevster's been on the Glads, they've never really had any other elite Tracer players on the roster. That burden has purely been on Kevster. Now, what they had with Patty Pan last year was pretty ideal, as he could play a lot of different things, not just projectile, even like the Sojourn and some hit scan. He could do a lot of different things, and Yaki honestly can't do all of those things. So maybe there is a world where the Gladiators want a third DPS player, but that's where Kevster comes into play. This is the conversation we need to have, and people really need to listen up here. What people fail to realize is that Kevster actually is a really good hit scan in his own right. It's just in the Overwatch League, he has always been more of a flex. Before he got picked up by the Glads in 2020, he made a name for himself a lot of the time on hit scan. I remember in particular, his Ashe was pretty big time. So to say that Kevster is incapable of swapping over to the team's hit scan is absolutely ludicrous. He most certainly could. He has the skill, the talent, the potential, the flexibility, the mechanics. Kevster can do absolutely anything he puts his mind to, especially if he has the proper resources. The real question that comes into play, well, I guess I should say the two big questions are, 1, can Kevster be as effective on hit scan as he was on projectile, because that's a pretty high level that you have to meet, a pretty big time standard, and 2, can this team survive if, let's say, Yaki and Kevster are their only DPS? How will they do if there's a double sniper meta, or composition that they need to play, or double hit scan? Can they survive with Yaki filling out that role? That's a pretty big question mark if they choose to leave their DPS line as is. I guess if we're on this arc of asking questions, we may also want to consider how Yaki does in potentially taking a bit of a step back. Throughout his entire Overwatch League career, he has always been the guy, the leader, the primary playmaker that gets all of the resources and attention. But this is Kevster's team. This is not his roster to command. He has to probably move into more of a secondary role, and I'd like to see how he does with that. On one hand, maybe he'll thrive. Maybe having less pressure on him to perform will allow him to perform at an even higher level than we've ever seen before. But on the other, maybe that can disrupt him, as we've seen it happen with plenty of other star players and rising stars in the making, you know? They go to a different team, they get more help, and then suddenly they fall off and they're just not as good anymore. It is my hope, because of his unreal potential and just how smart he is, and, you know, having the motivation to do better now that he has a better system around him, that Yaki will overcome this, but it's also something to keep in mind, and it's a burning question that could decide how far the Gladiators go in 2023. And you know, when we really think about it, what is Yaki's shelf life? He's been in this league for 3 years now. This is his 4th one. That's a pretty long lifespan for any professional in this league, and it's usually around this time where your career is coming to a close. So that could be worrisome for Yaki. Maybe this is where he finally falls off. I'm not saying that Yaki won't be able to overcome this, but historically that's just how this league tends to work. To make Gladiators fans feel better, there's a lot of reasons for him to overcome this trend and be really good. When you play for terrible teams like 2 years in a row and your talents continue to get wasted, that really builds up on you. It takes a toll on your mental. You feel like you're not good enough, and no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, you're just gonna lose. You want to prove yourself and get back to that old form that people saw from you back in your rookie year. And what better time to do that than with a brand new cast in a new era when people are maybe starting to doubt you. If there was ever a time for Yaki to pop off in meaningful situations and get back to that 2020 rookie MVP level form, it's going to be now in 2023 on the LA Gladiators. He has the best supporting cast he's arguably ever had, maybe some of the best coaching he's ever had with Unter as well as Face, and of course, easily the best DPS counterpart he's ever had. All the stars on paper seem to be aligning in Yaki's favor. The only thing that I could see possibly going wrong is not really meshing together with Kevster, or maybe struggling in an English-speaking environment, which isn't something he has a lot of experience with. If he nails that down, he can do enough English calming, and him and Kevster get along and find the right system and can coexist perfectly and build off of each other's strengths and just be a good unit together, then Yaki's gonna do fantastic this year. And the same certainly applies to Kevster, although I'm not quite as worried about him. He coexisted with a big shot like Birdring before, so I'm sure he'll find a way to adjust. It's more so just how he does if he does indeed end up as the full-time hitscan player on this roster, and whether or not he can maintain MVP level for a 3rd straight year. But you know, minor question marks aside, this Yaki acquisition is great on paper. He's just a really talented dude no matter how you slice it. No matter what you think could go wrong, there is a lot of things that can go right with somebody of that level added to your ranks. I'm not exactly sure what to expect from Yaki and Kevster and the Gladiators this year in general, but it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to watch them in this new era as they try and maintain relevance. Now all we can do is wait. The season's just around the corner, so it's only a matter of time until we find out whether or not this move was a good idea. But until then, that's going to do it for me, guys. Let me know what you think about Yaki joining the LA Gladiators down in the comments below, and what implications it can have for the rest of the roster. If you enjoyed this video and you want to stay up to date with all things Overwatch League news related, give this video a big fat thumbs up and subscribe to this channel and enable post notifications to keep up with all of my content. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.